They said it was just a homeowner's dispute, an argument about cement, permits, and neighborhood pride. But beneath the tidy lawns and fresh paint of Maple Ridge, something darker had been building for years. When the bridge collapsed, no one wanted to believe racism had anything to do with it. Yet one woman's obsession, her need to keep the neighborhood in line, would unravel more than concrete. It would expose a hidden rot eating through the community itself. How did a simple complaint turn into disaster, trial, and reckoning? The truth, once buried in cement, was about to crack wide open. Marcus Daniels never thought much about his neighborhood's rules. He paid his HOA dues on time, waved at neighbors, and spent weekends repairing the little footbridge connecting their cul-de-sac to the park. As one of the few black homeowners in Maple Ridge, Marcus believed that kindness and effort spoke louder than prejudice. He wanted people to see his work, not his skin. When the bridge began showing cracks, he volunteered to lead repairs. He'd studied civil engineering before switching careers, so patching it up felt personal, proof that community could stand stronger together. But not everyone saw it that way. One neighbor in particular, Karen Wilcox, head of the HOA committee, didn't like how unusual materials were being used. She didn't like Marcus's confidence either. Her complaints started quietly, an email here, a sarcastic remark there. Then, the criticisms hardened, spreading faster than Marcus could pour cement. Underneath the neighborhood's polished friendliness, something much heavier was setting, and it wasn't just concrete. The first complaint sounded harmless, a polite note about safety concerns regarding the bridge repairs. Marcus read it twice, his chest tightening. Karen had CC'd the entire HOA board. Within hours, his phone buzzed with messages asking if he had the right permits, the right training, the right to lead the project at all. He calmly explained the materials, the process, the inspection schedule. But logic didn't stand a chance against whispers. Soon, neighbors avoided eye contact. A local meeting turned cold when Karen insisted Marcus's unauthorized cement could endanger children. Her voice trembled just enough to sound righteous. The room quieted, and for the first time Marcus felt the invisible line drawn between him and everyone else. He stopped sleeping well. One morning, a sign appeared near the bridge. "Stop construction. Unsafe." The letters looked official, printed, deliberate. He knew they weren't. When he tried to remove it, a bystander recorded him, muttering something about temper problems. Marcus felt his hands shaking, how quickly suspicion became truth when it was painted on his skin. The city inspector arrived a week later, not because of Marcus's request, but Karen's repeated complaints. She smiled sweetly as they examined the bridge, hovering like a witness waiting for the verdict. The inspector found no violations, only solid work. Yet Karen's eyes didn't waver. She wasn't after answers. She was after control. Then the rain came. Heavy, endless. The water rose under the bridge, pushing against the new cement. Marcus watched from his porch, heart pounding, not for the structure, but for what he knew would follow if anything went wrong. And one morning it did. A section buckled. Concrete crumbled into the rushing creek below. No one was hurt. But the sound echoed through Maple Ridge like judgment. By noon, news vans lined the street. Karen stood where cameras could see her best. Waving reports, she'd warned everyone. Marcus tried to speak about the storm, about the foundation cracks that predated his repairs, but his words drowned in the outrage. Suddenly, it wasn't a bridge that had collapsed. It was his standing in the community. Then came whispers of lawsuits, criminal charges, liability. Karen called for a special hearing. The HOA's online page filled with speculation about negligence, fraud, recklessness. And beneath every sentence, Marcus saw the one thing no one dared say out loud. He wasn't just being blamed for broken cement. He was being punished for existing where some people thought he didn't belong. Somewhere between the echo of falling concrete and the click of cameras, Marcus realized this wasn't about a bridge. It was about the cracks that had always been there, hidden, widening, inevitable. The courtroom smelled faintly of dust and nerves. Cameras flashed, microphones hovered, and Marcus sat at the defense table, hands clasped so tightly his knuckles blanched. Across the aisle, Karen straightened her blazer, the picture of composure, a neighbor cast as savior. Behind her, rows of familiar faces watched with polite curiosity, not recognition. The prosecutor's voice cut through the murmurs, presenting evidence of negligence, emails stripped of context, photos cropped to show only flaws. Every sentence chipped away at Marcus's credibility, not because the logic held, but because people wanted an easy villain. Each time he looked toward the jury, their eyes slid past him, as if his presence itself was uncomfortable to meet. Then came the insult that didn't need words. When his own attorney reminded the court of Marcus's engineering background, laughter, light but poisonous, rippled through the gallery. It wasn't the kind of laugh born from humor. It was disbelief, the silent question retreating behind tight smiles. Someone like him? Marcus's pulse roared in his ears. This was no trial about cement or safety. It was a performance about trust, belonging, and who gets to be right. The judge called for order, but the damage was done. Karen's tears came on cue, trembling hands clutching a stack of papers. She spoke of fear, of concern for the children, of not wanting to assume the worst. Words polished into innocence, shining over the deep stain beneath them. Marcus breathed slowly, his throat dry. Every instinct screamed to fight back, to shout that he had tried to build something stronger, for everyone. But the room wasn't listening. It never had been. When the verdict was read, the sound was almost gentle, two words that hollowed his chest: guilty negligence. In that fragile silence that followed, cameras snapped again, immortalizing his humiliation. And outside, beyond the courtroom walls, the bridge he'd tried to save stood half destroyed, a monument to every cracked promise of fairness he once believed in. Marcus didn't fight the cameras anymore. The headlines wrote themselves. Negligence trial ends in conviction. Neighbors whispered about how it was such a shame, then quickly returned to their lawns and holiday decorations. Within a week, Maple Ridge looked untouched, as though the bridge, the trial, and the man at the center of it had never existed. He sold his house quietly. The morning he left, mist hung over the creek where the bridge still leaned, half rebuilt by a new contractor the HOA proudly praised. The irony stung. The same materials Marcus had used were now approved, the same structure now safe. Change only needed a different face attached to it. For months, he carried guilt heavier than cement, wondering if his silence had somehow proved them right. But time began to reshape that weight. Messages trickled in, people who had seen the news, strangers who recognized their own stories in his. A teacher in another state, a construction worker from a small town. One by one, they told him, "You're not crazy. You're not alone." That truth didn't erase what happened, but it transformed it. The bridge had fallen, yes, but it exposed the fractures that polite smiles had tried to cover. Racism doesn't always wear a hood or shout hate. Sometimes it hides behind homeowner bylaws and phrases like, "just doing what's best for the community." Marcus rebuilt, not the bridge this time, but his resolve. He started mentoring young engineers of color, teaching them not just how to strengthen structures, but how to stand firm when the ground itself feels uneven. Because sometimes, the collapse is what finally forces people to look at what was never stable to begin with. And the question that remains, echoing louder than any verdict, is this: how many more cracks must appear before we finally stop blaming the builder and start fixing the foundation?